Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. This is our final conversation, and as we mentioned, it's all about changing the conversation about aging. So joining us, fittingly, is the National Council on Aging, and they brought with them Ishelle Pott. She is the Executive Director, and also Ivorine Bulwer. She is the Executive Director of Hellpage, Belize. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us, and welcome.
It's a pleasure being here.
Always a pleasure having you guys here.
Thanks.
Now, this month is a moment to recognize abuse against elderly persons, yes? But I think whenever we have you guys here on set, it's always important for us to discuss really just the bigger picture of how elderly persons are cared for here in Belize and what their livelihoods are looking like. Are there progressions being made? Are the organizations as effective as they are set out to be? So perhaps we can take the conversation there and then dive into June 15th and what that signifies.
Certainly.
So perhaps we can begin with you, Ms. Ivorine. You are the the Executive Director of Hellpage. Talk to us about the work that's being done over at Hellpage and how it aligns with caring for elderly persons.
Hellpage Belize has been around about 40 years now, and we work with and on behalf of older persons. Hellpage has operations at 9 sites. 2 residential homes. This is the Cecilia home in Belize City, the Octavia Wade Center in San Ignacio, and we have day centers in all district towns and in 2 villages in the Stanwick districts. Those are in St. Bide and Hopkins. And those sites, primarily we are focused on the social welfare and health of older persons. And our population of older persons in Belize is around 8%. And so you look at it, it's about 42,000 older persons exist across the country. And we need to be mindful that that composition of older persons are persons who are pensioners and persons who are non-pensioners. And therefore the quality of life for our older persons are paramount as it relates to Hellpage services. And so to carry out our work, we work in partnership with the government of Belize, organizations, NGOs, other NGOs, government organizations, and international partnership, and individuals in Belize and and globally.
What's the collaborative effort with the National Council of Aging tying in with Hellpage and the work that they do?
Well, Hellpage Belize is a member of our board of directors.
Okay.
The council is created to implement policy, and the national policy for older persons was adopted by government in 2002, and that policy came out of direct efforts of advocacy and work that Hellpage Belize was doing at the time. So they're one of our more crucial partners in the work that we're doing with aging across the country. So Hellpage provides that service, direct service to older persons, that connection and network with older people, and then the council looks at the implementation of policy and more on the governance side of things when it comes to aging. So key activities that we've been involved in December last year, government signed on to the Inter-American Convention on Protecting the Human Rights of Older Persons. This year, with the introduction of the Families Bill into the House, was the first time that a chapter for the protection and welfare of older persons has been included in legislation. And those are key areas that we work with, along with strengthening and coordination of organizations working with older persons on the ground.
From a holistic or from a perhaps universal point of view, do you believe that we as a Belizean society are doing enough to be able to address issues of elderly abuse?
No, of course no. No. I know Ishelle would be able to share the statistics on older persons. But when you look at abuse, the causes And to address abuse, you have to understand it's a multifaceted issue. We have got to look at the poverty situation, the level of poverty, 42% population living in that level of poverty. We have got to look at the issue of access. We have to look at the causes. And so there are nutritional factors, there are health factors, there are economic factors. And all these things impact on livelihood, on the maintenance of wellness, and the stresses that comes with just maintenance of well-being. And so when you want to look at abuse, we have got to look at not only the physical, the sexual, and other causes or the other types of abuse. We have got to look at the issue of neglect that comes with abuse. Because when I look at the social sector, the issues of older persons, it all lead to neglect.
Yeah.
We have got to look at laws that are in place. We have got to look at policies that exist. We have got to look at the services or lack of services. And these services zero in or focus and can lead to neglect.
So a key thing to remember when we talk about elder abuse is not just intentional actions, but also unintentional action. It goes both ways. And the challenge that we do see is the lack of resources to adequately address issues of elder abuse. So as Ms. Everin mentioned earlier, Hellpage runs 2 of the residential facilities across the country. There are only 5 in the entire country, and within all 5, we're housing less than 150 older persons. So if you find an older person in a dire situation, someone who has either been neglected or abused, there is very little recourse for how we are going to move that older person from this physical situation and rehome them. In the same way, there is challenges where it comes to cases of abuse, in that the way legislation presently exists, an older person must go themselves to make a report at the police station and must carry that report through the court system in order for there to be a case of proven abuse. And most older people are living with some kind of family.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge. It's a challenge for me to go to the police and say, look, I've been living with my daughter and she feeds me 2 times a day.
My primary caregiver is neglecting me.
And then if you go and make that report, where will you go from there? There's nowhere to house you. There's no movement in between. So there are many challenges where it comes to elder abuse. One of the greatest buffers, or what creates resilience among older persons, is being able to belong to organizations like Hellpage Belize and having a community. We see that isolation is one of the great risks. When you don't have anybody that's checking in on you, when you don't have anybody who's paying attention to your well-being, when you don't have anybody who will notice that you are being missed or that something has changed in your situation, then you become even more vulnerable. Because there are also cases where older persons will trustingly give a family member, a friend, an ATM card. Go take out and leave 20 out of the ATM for me. And the person goes and takes out $120.
Clean the account.
Give you the 20 and go about clean the account.
When we look at this from a policy level, though, Ishel, are there policies in place that speaks to the rights of elderly persons, like taking care of them at a certain point of their age, or when they reach a point where they're not able to move as freely as they once could? Are there policies in place to protect older persons in this case?
Previously, well, the national policy for older persons is in need of updating.
Okay.
It hasn't been updated since 2002. We're very happy that we have entered into the preliminary stages of a partnership with UNFPA towards moving that forward for the updating of the policy, because many things have changed. But previous to the new legislation that has been introduced in the House, the Families Bill, there was nothing that really spoke to the protection of older persons in situations like this. this. It was all through the regular parts of domestic law, which are challenging and expensive for an older person to be able to access, and really created for older people to be abused, taken advantage of, and have no real recourse. I mean, the most common situation that we know of is persons signing over assets in exchange for end of life care.
Yes.
You know, I will give you my house and you're promising you'll take care of me until the end of my life, and you hand over the house, and then the person gets locked away in a little room and forgotten. Or sometimes they're placed in one of the facilities and somebody is paying for them to be there for a certain period of time, and then the payments stop and the person fall off of the face of the earth, and the older person who has had assets and has things that they have worked for their entire life no longer benefits from what their life work has been.
So, you know, when I look, you know, from my experience working on the ground, you recognize that education, very important, the awareness, the services that exist to empower older persons. What role education plays in it? What role does housing play in it? What role does human services play in? So it has to take on a broader approach. Yes, we hear about the police, the domestic violence unit. How does it support older persons to do reporting? Where is the utilities company as it relates to access or support with a phone or a phone service that you can call? Where is that support? So the empowerment, that level of support services need to be in place if we want to make a change. And it's getting worse. I mean, Hellpage, we house about, of that, almost 150. At Dr. Aviwait, we house 48. At Sister Cecilia, we have 24. So the majority of those older persons who are in need are housed by Hellpage. But we recognize, because I travel the length and breadth of this country, and we see neglect. And it has a lot to do because individual has responsibilities, the community, the family, and the government. So we have got to look at these policies.
Well, speaking of traveling, I understand that there will be an informational tour across the country where persons can get more information on the work of the council. Can we talk about that?
It's more than just the work of the council. It's in its inception phases, it's our elder abuse awareness information booths. So we'll be providing information on elder abuse, the different types. We'll also be joined by social workers in case people want to make a referral or want to access services. We also have Hellpage branches in the districts that we're visiting joining us, talking about their programs and how people can become involved in their programs. And we have Hecopub who will be along with us, taking basic health checks and nutrition information especially for those older persons with chronic conditions. So the booths are going to be providing information about the different types of elder abuse, where you can get support and more information, and we'll also be sharing information on the Convention on the Rights of Older Persons. I know that there have been large campaigns like the Convention on the Rights of Children.
Yes.
I always tell people, you know, there's money in children and there's money in women, but there's very little money in older persons.
Yeah.
So, you know, finding the funding to launch a full-on education campaign has been a challenge so far. So this is the inception to kind of get some of the information out there and link with key partners. We've done this activity in 3 districts previously, and so now we're catching the other 3 districts that we haven't done before from the council.
All right, and as you can see on screen there, the dates were displayed, and so I imagine that persons can take advantage of these dates and locations to gather more information.
Yes, so we'll be in Orange Walk this week Thursday, tomorrow, and then we'll be in Belize City next week Thursday at the Battlefield Park.
Yes.
And then in Punta Gorda, the final one.
All right. Well, ladies, this has been a wonderful conversation, definitely insightful. We continue to follow what you guys do, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that does it for our show this morning. We have to say a huge thank you to all of our other guests who joined us as well. There are key things that we are looking out for, I know today as it relates to the news, we spoke just moments ago of breaking news where blockades are taking place in certain parts of the countries, where teachers are blocking entry points. I believe this is in Dangriga, and so we will be following that. And of course, many other news topics that will also be available at noon as well for our News at Noon coverage. Again, though, that does it for our show. It is June 4th. And if you're celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. And if you'd like to give a birthday shout out, or if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also catch us on Facebook. That's Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as Instagram for behind the scenes content. That's OYE Belize. You can even text us or call us on our OYE phone number. That's 675-2555. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and please do us a favor and join us again tomorrow when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
And your heart's open.
have a wonderful Wednesday, Belize. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank, our country, your bank, and Smart, bringing people together.